Before we get into this episode, Jill and I would love to ask you if you can go rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you think it is deserving of 5 stars, we read all of the reviews. We are also now on YouTube. Every single episode is on YouTube. So if you want to also go subscribe and like the episode there, that helps so much. Again, we read everything. This helps us grow the podcast, get better guests, grow our community, and it helps so much more than you know. So thank you so much in advance, and let's get into the episode. Welcome back to another episode of Gut Talk. And if you are new here, hello. My name is Jenna, and I host this podcast with my older sister, Jill, where we talk about all things health and wellness. And today is an episode that you might have never thought you needed until you listen to it. Out of the 112 episodes that we have done so far, this one might take the cake as my favorite we have done, and that is saying a lot. Our guest today is Dr. Nicole Fleischmann. She is a leading urogynecologist and women's health expert with over 25 years of experience. She is the author of the book, The Second Mouth, One Woman's Journey to Decode a Hidden Language for a New Era of Women's Health, where she challenges long-held misconceptions and provides women with the knowledge to reclaim control over their bodies. Basically, Dr. Fleischmann says that we have got it all wrong. And the concepts she's talking about today with us are things that literally blew Jill and my minds. Like, I had to pick my jaw up off of the floor like 10 different times. So with that being said, please welcome Dr. Fleischmann on Gut Talk. I just wanted to say that we're very excited to have you on, and we're very grateful to have you on. So welcome.
Well, I am really grateful that you guys asked me. All I want to do is talk about these types of things, and I'm really looking for platforms to talk on because I just feel very, very certain that we are really missing a lot of things, especially in my field. I'm in a lot of fields, but in my field particularly. So I'm very vocal about it, or I'm trying to be now, because I'm just tired. I'm really tired of seeing the same thing over and over again.
You said on, I think it's your website, there's kind of a statement that says that women aren't talking enough about their health. And whether it be because they're embarrassed or because they don't know that the symptoms they're experiencing are actually wrong or can be prevented or fixed. But we are in that same boat of talking about taboo or uncomfortable conversations, because if we don't start talking about it, they'll just always be taboo and uncomfortable.
Exactly. I love that you guys are talking about poop, right?
Yeah.
I talk about poop all the time.
Right. Cool.
And I love, that we need to do this. We just do. There's too many people suffering.
Yeah. And we had a gynecologist or a nurse practitioner who deals with women's health on. We had her back on a few episodes ago to discuss BV and yeast infections. And listen, once you talk about that on the internet, I really think there's no uncomfortable conversation.
No, but we're going to go a lot farther than that. That's nothing.
I love it. I love
That's
it.
nothing.
So I think to give everyone just an idea of who you are and what you do, Jenna just said you are a badass, and I totally agree. But what are you doing during the day?
So I basically take care of women's below the belly button problems. That's how I look at it. We're pelvic health doctors and we're surgeons. So urogynecologists, I would say, do everything that oncologists and sort of these benign gynecologic things. We don't really do that. We do everything else. So we're dealing with leakage problems and pelvic pain and organ prolapse and that type of thing. And a lot of that is surgery. A lot of it, not all of it, but a bit of it is.
So how many additional years of school did you have to go to in order to have a specialization in pelvic floor or the surgery aspect? Like what type of education does that look like?
So there's a lot of different routes to get here. You could either get here from the urology side, which is what I did. So I really went through men's health to get to women's health. That's how I did it, which is not the most common way. A more common way is to go into gynecology, OBGYN, and then do a fellowship after that. So both of these are fellowships after the main residency. So you could do a urology residency or you could do a gynecology residency. But the fellowship, which is the advanced training, is about 2 to 3 years just in women's pelvic health, meaning people who are having advanced surgeries for, anatomic problems. That's a 2 or 3 year fellowship. It's actually shorter for the urologists. They give us an extra year off because our residency is so much longer. So I did a 6-year residency in urology. whereas the GYNs only do 4. So we do a lot of surgery in urology. Urologists are very surgical people, even more than the gynecologists. So that's really our home base is surgery. And then we can specialize from there.
And what did you see in your urology studies that made you want to pursue this?
So I actually went into urology to do women's urology.
Okay.
I did not want to be an OBGYN. I ruled that out very early in my medical school training because I didn't really want to be delivering babies. And that was really, although I love babies, I have 3 children of my own. I didn't really want the responsibility of delivering a baby is way too much for me to handle. It's just like the cycle. There's a lot. It's very litigious, the field. GYNs really are the hardest working people in the world, and they get very little credit for what they do. And I have a lot of friends who are GYNs, as you can imagine. And I just very early, I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. Although I always liked women's health, I was like, let me go another way. I actually was going to be a breast surgeon for a while. I started in general surgery to do that. And then I ended up switching into urology from surgery in very early in my residency because I just really felt this uh, feeling that I didn't want to do 5 years of general surgery to be a breast surgeon. It's like and we don't talk about this. This is like bridge under the water. It's not that interesting. But I ended up through the back door going to urology and then doing this advanced training. And I always went into urology just to do women's health. I never wanted to be a male urologist. I don't like the whole penis erectile dysfunction thing. It doesn't excite me.
Yeah. And you would probably see a lot see a lot of that. So
That's
no
awesome.
thanks.
Listen, I did, and I did it for a long time. I did it for 6 years. I just didn't want to do it for my life. I really
Sure.
have 2 boys. I love men. I love men's health, but it's just I really had this passion to help women. Always knew I wanted to do women's health.
Well, and the thing about women's health is it's been neglected. And we know that, women were added into studies much later on. And so a lot of women's studies were based off of men's data. And then we also know, I mean, you know better than anyone that if it was a lot of our issues, if there were male issues, they would already be solved, right? Like, we love to talk about birth control, and we've had a lot of OBGYNs on our podcast, and we've had those conversations, and it's like there would be so many more options. Period cramps would be like such a non-issue. There's so many things, I think, personally, that would be just taken care of if it was a man's issue.
We've always valued women's reproductive health. That's something that we've always put a lot of, financing into, so to speak. But in terms of just women's general health, especially the pelvic health, that's been a little lost, I would say.
And so you wrote a book because you felt the need to really get more information out there to women, and it's about the second mouth. So can you start off by explaining to us what the second mouth is? Because I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Okay, so you never heard about it because it's a concept. The second mouth is a concept. It's a way of understanding your body. It's not something you're going to read about in other places because it's something that I've come up with.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that makes sense then.
Yeah. And when you have an idea and this idea is absolutely correct, there's a complete drive, at least there was in my part, to be throwing this out there because I think it's something that can resonate with a lot of people. And I think the current models that we have, even what the pelvic floor is, does not resonate with most people. They really don't understand it. It is way too just abstract an idea. And when an idea is abstract instead of concrete, you just can't understand what anybody means. So I'm trying to make a concrete idea be something that people can conceptualize because we have to learn to move our pelvic floors appropriately. That's actually our responsibility. Just like you move your arm, you have to know up and down and side. And it's the same thing with the pelvic floor. If you don't understand what your movements are, you're not going to know what to do. And that's really what this is about. And it turns out our conditioning is to not know that. We are conditioned to basically not understand ourselves. And we can talk about that as we go along. But the second mouth is the other side of your body. But it's actually, let me explain this in a clearer way. When you're an embryo, your mouth and your anus are actually one thing. So you could think of yourself as a circular creature when you're just a couple of cells. Your mouth and your anus are fused together. And then through the course of development, they kind of spring apart and they go to each other's side. Okay.
Thank goodness.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So, and that makes us deuterostomes. We're all animals in the animal kingdom are deuterostomes, which is really second mouth creatures. So I didn't really come up with the name. We've always been second mouth creatures. But interestingly enough, This is your second mouth. The first mouth is below.
Wow.
I know this, and I don't want to blow anybody's mind with that because we're deuterostomes. Whereas if you are a protostome, your first mouth is this, and it just means the origin of in which it develops. But
Okay.
the key principle is that our nerve connections between our mouth and our bottoms are still connected in many ways because we started off as in one place, and those nerve connections are like mirror images of each other. So basically, your bottom, your pelvic floor, is a mirror image of your jaw. In fact, many of the movements you make with your jaw are going to be mirrored below. So, for instance, if you're a teeth clencher, you're probably a vagina clencher. And that's really, and that's just a principle that we kind of have to understand about our bodies. Because if you have a lot of tone here, a lot of stressed out tone, likely the same thing's happening on the other side because there is a similar mouth structure on the other side. And the lower jaw of that mouth is your pelvic floor.
So then, okay, but what does that mean? Like what if, because I'm not following yet.
Okay, that's okay. It takes some time. The concept, and to be honest with you, these concepts, as much as I can explain them, you really can't explain them in words. You have to feel it in your body. And
Okay.
this is an embodied intelligence. It's not an intelligence that I think one of the reasons it's so hard to explain is because there's not words to describe it.
Mm.
But think about the pelvic floor, where it is. It's the back wall of your vagina. Okay.
Right.
So you really need to understand concrete things. What is she talking about? What is the jaw? Where is it? Okay. So if you stuck your finger in your vagina, the back side of the vagina, between the wall of the rectum and the vagina, is your pelvic floor. That's where it is. So
Got it.
you could call it the rectovaginal septum, but actually there's a whole group of muscles in there that is the pelvic floor. And that floor goes all the way back to your tailbone. So think about it as the lower back half side of your body.
Okay.
Everything that's on the back wall of your vagina muscularly is your pelvic floor. And that pelvic floor can move just like a jaw. So you can literally move your tailbone and your group of muscles backwards. Okay. And that motion backwards will move away from your bladder. So if your bladder's here and your pelvic floor is here, you need to be able to move the pelvic floor down like the jaw of a mouth, which would be towards your anus, your backside, in order to pee and poop. Okay. You have to make this space happen. And for most people, they're leaving their pelvic floor right here, or sometimes they're even closing it tighter. And that's dysfunctional voiding. So what we need to do neurologically is to move the jaw backwards. And that's something that we are not doing. So it's about dropping a muscle down. There's a muscle there. You just have to drop it down when you pee and when you poop, and it's going to expand the opening of the vagina. And that is a neurological milestone. It has to be taught. It's not something that we just develop. Because before we can do that, our cognitive pathways teach us how to urinate with a closed mouth. We urinate by pushing. We basically push, and that starts the bladder to contract, and it works. It works, and all little children do this. It's a developmental stage. And when they're toilet training and they're trying to figure out how to pee, they naturally push. Some of us are even told to push.
Right.
But that's a dysfunctional behavior.
Okay.
90% of women are pushing out their pee. Only a very few of them are aware of it. Most of us are completely unaware we're doing it.
I'm for
Me.
sure pushing my pee. Yeah.
So
Some of us are aware, some of us are not. But what we do need to understand is that pushing out the pee is a dysfunctional type of urinating. It's not the main pathway for urinating.
And what
It's
does
the
that lead
infantile
to?
pathway. What's that?
What does that lead to?
So when you push, you are going to damage your sphincter muscle. And it might not happen when you're young, but certainly it happens after childbirth and older. We haven't, so if you think of the sphincter, it's a circular muscle inside of your urethra, and it's nice and tight when you're born, okay? When you pee, it opens so the urine can come out. And actually, that's the first stage of peeing. You open your sphincter and the bladder does its job. For most of us, we are not opening the door. We're keeping the door closed and pushing through the door.
mm-hmm.
But when you keep pushing through a door that's supposed to be on that nice automatic button and it's supposed to open and you walk out, when you just keep ramming through it, you start to damage it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I'm trying to stop people from doing. I'm trying to stop them from bearing down to push the door open instead of using a nice automatic button that we're all born with. Because we're all born with that button on the side of the wall that you just kind of stick your hand on and the door opens. We're not using the button. We're just ramming through the door.
Okay.
And as we get older, especially into menopause, that door does not open the same way with pushing because that pathway requires estrogen to work. So what often happens to women is they don't really have symptoms of pushing through their closed door until they get to menopause and older. And that's when you're in my office complaining. And I say to you, stop pushing out your pee. And half of you or 90% of you, I'm arguing, I don't push, Dr. Fleischmann, I relax. No, you're not relaxing, you're pushing. You don't know you're pushing. That relaxing to you is pushing, okay? Because the only way to truly relax the pelvic floor is with breath. And it's a coordinated breath. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I heard you say that. Is that what you consider the sniff?
Yes.
Okay. Can
So
you
breath
explain
is-
that?
Yes, I'm happy to.
Please.
Listen, this is an old, I can talk about this for literally 3 hours. I mean, we'll have to do that, but I do this all day long. Every
Yeah.
patient that I speak to is getting this exact conversation. So
Wow. Okay, great.
that's why
This
my
is
language is
exciting.
very clear. Yes.
I said on our Instagram stories yesterday, I go, I think you're about to change all of our lives because this is
I hope so.
wildly novel information to me. I'm in the field. Like I'm functionally trained as a practitioner through functional programs, and I literally have never heard this concept before.
Because it's not, you have. See, what you
Okay.
understand is that what I'm talking about, you've heard many times.
Sure.
But you haven't put it together in a narrative that makes sense.
Got it.
And really all I'm doing is taking all these things that we already know and I'm putting them into a narrative that incorporates the whole body.
Okay.
Okay? Because it's the previous narratives about what's going on down here do not make sense.
Right.
Even I could talk to, I have a lot of friends who are PTs.
Sure.
And PTs are pretty split on this because the classic pelvic floor therapist is still telling you to do squeezing exercises.
Kegels, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you, that's like teeth clenching. That's like going to the dentist and having somebody say, you have TMJ dysfunction. Why don't you just clench your teeth tighter until they fall out of your head? Then we'll be happy.
Wow.
That's what Kegels are to me. They're the opposite of what we need to do because Kegels, if the bladder's here and you're just going tighter here.
Right.
Why would you do that? You would do that if you can't hold your pee, right? So for people who have stress incontinence, when they leak, when they cough and sneeze, we are taught to tighten these muscles so we don't leak. But these are accessory muscles. This is the real muscle. Okay? So what we're doing with Kegels is we're just tightening these accessory muscles until the point where we literally cannot get the urine out. We're getting constant UTIs. And that's what happens with menopause.
So just to be clear, we are moving forward. We are anti-Kegel.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we are anti-Kegel. Okay, you know what's funny is, and this is probably the only education I've ever had on pelvic floor, is Kris Kardashian, the mother Kardashian, was telling all of her
Kris
girls.
Jenner.
Oh yeah, Kris Jenner. Sorry, how did I get that wrong?
Yeah.
Kris Jenner was telling her daughters how important it was to do Kegels.
Because
that is the only time I've ever heard about it.
So this is why I'm going after the Kegel.
Okay.
And I'm really going on an attack mode of it because I have to be very clear about this. I can't be like, oh, sometimes you can do that. The truth is sometimes you can't, but you have to have more awareness of the movements below to be able to do a Kegel because in fact, the only way to actually move your pelvic floor muscles is with breath. If you are moving your pelvic floor muscles without breath, you are doing something dysfunctional. These muscles do not move without breath. The ones that you're trying to strengthen do not move without breath. They do not strengthen without breath. And most of us are doing Kegels holding our breath, which is just squeezing and tightening. I want you to think about, if you think about a Kegel, do you know what a Kegel is? Do you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So they have to do Kegel training. That's such a bunch of crap. We have been Kegeling our whole life. That's how we learned to hold our pee as a kid. We
Right.
are squeezing and squeezing. That is the first thing we learn as children neurologically is how to hold pee. So
Mhm.
all you're doing is advancing your childhood holding behaviors, which all of us are supposed to get rid of.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, it's the opposite direction. So it works to fix stress incontinence, but there's a huge price to pay. So if you're a woman who just had a baby and you're leaking urine, yeah, you can tighten and you're going to be able to tighten those muscles so tightly that the pee doesn't come out and you might congratulate yourself. But if you haven't learned to open your bottom, which is the reason you have stress incontinence in the first place, wait. Wait till you're older. Those muscles do not work anymore to hold your pee. You can tighten them all you want. Not going to work. Ask any of my patients. We have to learn these basic physiologic principles when we're young, when our nerve pathways are neuroplastic and we can understand things. By the time we're old, it's like I can't have you overcome your reflexes then.
Quite honestly, I think I deal with a little bit of incontinence. I put that in the notes for you because I was telling my friend the other day, I was like, I think I need to start doing Kegels. It happens to me. Listen, I've never had kids before. Like I've never had,
You
any.
don't have to have kids to have. First of
Okay.
all, honestly, we're realizing a lot more about stress and this is not a childbirth thing alone. This is a woman,
Okay.
it's a woman thing. And
Good.
50% of young childhood athletes are incontinent. So if you're a gymnast, if you're a track runner, if you're really athletic, you have a really good chance of being incontinent.
Yeah, like I have it. I'm 28 years old. I was an athlete, soccer player my entire life. I mean, like I can't do jumping jacks or jumping
Right.
rope
And you didn't have children. So your
without losing.
floor is too tight.
Well, wait, real quick, I just want to make sure incontinent means pee
Oh
leakage,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to just clear things up.
Yeah.
Incontinence means losing urine outside of the toilet.
Okay.
We have really, my field has complicated things so much. It really drives me crazy. I want to go back and literally just like take a bomb to my field. I can't tell you. I literally, because we just need to start over. We have so
That's
many
awesome.
foundational problems.
Yeah.
You have urge incontinence. Oh no, you have stress incontinence. Oh, you have mixed incontinence. Gotta get rid of it. If you are peeing in your pants, you have incontinence.
Right.
Thank
Okay.
you.
It doesn't matter. Just don't listen to all this urge stress. It's all BS.
Okay.
Okay. If you are not holding your pee, you're incontinent. Okay. And most people who are incontinent are too tight. Simple. Let's not complicate. Oh, you have a weak pelvic floor. You have a tight. No, just stop that already.
Okay.
Like, just like you don't have a tight mouth or you're not moving your mouth open and closed. Let's just get rid of the whole weakness, tighten. We don't even want to talk hypertonic, hypotonic. It's all confusing us.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're leaking outside of the toilet, you have an over tightened pelvic floor
That checks out for me.
pretty much across the board. And this is whether you've had a child or not. Now,
Okay.
you may have weak tissues. You may have pushed so hard that your bladder's hanging out of you, but that doesn't necessarily mean your pelvic floor muscles are weak. They could be really tight. I operated on two ladies today. Both of them were so tight and their uteruses were on the floor. Why? Because they pushed so hard to get stool and urine out of their bodies that their organs come down. And childbirth doesn't help. It doesn't
Sure.
help. That's where the initial damage is done. But their pelvic floors are tight. They're not wide open. I do operate on women that have wide open, hiatuses, so to speak. You could say they have weak muscles. I just say they have blown out muscles. Like,
Mhm.
think about it. If your mouth is closed and you vomit through a closed mouth, you don't open it, you're going to it's just like the force of it is going to start damaging your tissues. You have to open for things to come in and out of you or the muscles get damaged. And that's what happens during childbirth too. We're all pushing through a closed door then too.
Right.
We're not supposed to be bearing down to have a child either. We're supposed to sniff the child. And it's just, listen, sniffing is something that I want to just bring it as a broad term. It's how you move air through your nose, through
Okay.
your nose, because it turns out most people don't even know how to do that.
Yeah,
Most,
teach us, please.
well, you might know, maybe you may not have PFD, but PFD means you don't know how to breathe. And that's just pelvic floor dysfunction means you don't know how to breathe. You don't know how to do a physiologic breath. Okay, which is always nasal and it's always with your diaphragm. I want you to know the biggest resistance that I'm going to have with you guys and with most of my patients is that you're sucking in your stomach. I don't want to, I will love to get into stomach sucking, but this is the thing that I think has killed women's health, killed it. We are not supposed to be sucking in our abdomens. We are not. There is no way that that is correct because we are immobilizing our diaphragms when we do that. And most of my patients who have prolapse and incontinence just have a problem where they are really like sucking in their diaphragms all the time. They're not breathing.
And what does sucking in mean? Is that like flexing our abs and like trying to look skinnier in pictures? Okay.
But it's not just trying to look skinnier in pictures. It's how you carry yourself.
Okay.
Most people who are sucking in their bellies are not even aware they're doing it. These are conditioned habits that started in childhood. Okay. So put your finger right under your, like, let me just show you here, like right under your bra strap, right on your xiphoid, like right under. Okay. And just try to sit up straight and lean forward a little bit at your hip and just relax your abdomen. Just relax everything. And then take a quick sniff like this. Watch me. Can you do that? Do you feel your diaphragm pop out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's how you engage your diaphragm. That's the start of a breath. The sniff will start your diaphragm to engage. And we know that that's a medicine thing. I mean, when we check sniff inspiratory pressures on people who are having pulmonary issues. So when you start the sniff, you're literally stimulating your phrenic nerve. Okay? And we do this in cats and mice, and there's all sorts of basic science studies on this. That diaphragm engagement is the first start of a breath. Now what you do is you pull it through. So if you want to put your finger under your nose, this is a really good way to do it. And just smell. Start with a sniff and smell. Do you feel the air go through you and expand your diaphragm? Yeah, that's how you pee. You have to push with air. Yes. Lean forward. You're too far back. Lean your whole body forward and just push your belly out when you sniff. And you'll feel your bottom open.
Yes.
Eureka. That's how you pee. Eureka. That's how you pee. Okay. That's how you pee. So what you'll notice when you start doing this is, and I have to tell you, when you start sniffing out your pee instead of pushing it out, your whole life changes. Because what you're using is the actual neurologic functional pathways for urinating and defecating. You have to open your bottom. You have to use airflow, open nasal passages to get anything out of your body. No pushing.
So I just want to be really clear. I'm a very visual person. So
Good.
especially when I start doing this, when I go to pee, maybe put my finger up to my nose and try to sniff in my finger. Essentially.
By the way, this is called breathing.
Right.
I know.
Welcome.
This is so funny because I really get a kick out of all this stuff. I get a kick out of
As you should.
Because when you see the world as clearly as I do,
Mm-hmm.
everything just is funny.
I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure.
So what I'm teaching you is how you're supposed to breathe. Okay. Breathing is diaphragm engagement, and you're supposed to feel your bottom open. Okay. That's how you breathe. Every single breath of the day should be that. This is not yoga breathing. This is not vagal breathing. This is breathing. Breathing is a diaphragmatic activity. 80% of our breath comes from our diaphragm. Really, I think it should be 100%. You can use your upper half muscles to help you, do a little bit more. Not necessary. Try to keep your breath below your waist. Try to keep it below your waist, because when you keep your breath below your waist and start with a sniff, you have to start with the sniff because that brings the sensory motor awareness to your brain that things are opening. If you don't sniff, you don't feel anything. You don't have that interoception, means feeling the inside of your body, getting feedback signals from your body. So think of your sniff as an internal biofeedback system. When you sniff, you feel the other side of your body get that air pressure. That's a nervous system connection that we all need to make. Okay, it's a full through nervous system connection. So if you keep your sniff above your waist, when a lot of people, when I train them, they're sniffing with their chests, all their chests going out. It's not the same brain stimulation. It will not open your bottom. You have to freeze your chest and feel the air go below your waist. And that is what will start the urination and defecation process. And that's also how we're supposed to breathe all day long.
It's funny that it feels uncomfortable in a way.
What feels uncomfortable?
It not like in the painful certain way, but like maybe I'm overthinking it right now, but I'm like, because I think I catch myself mouth breathing all throughout the day. So this now focusing on nasal is like, It feels
Yeah.
a little
Okay,
different.
so it's uncomfortable, first of all.
Yeah.
You're not used to it. It's a habit you have to change.
Right.
But just understanding that mouth breathing is not how we're supposed to be taking air into our bodies. And if you had, I mean, when you're talking, when you're vocalizing, mouth breathing is going to happen. When I'm having a conversation with you, I have to take air into my mouth. That's how we make vocalizations.
Right.
When we were created, we were given an option to nose breathe or mouth breathe. And the reason was we had to connect our oral airways and our nasal airways so that we could create sound. No, most animals are not as, they have a separation. That some animals are nasal breathers only. We
Right.
got a choice and we're constantly picking the wrong one. And it's just because of the education problem. See, if we were told from it, if your mother was on you, close your mouth, you must breathe through your nose. We're not hearing these enough as children. We're still not. I'm hoping this is going to change. All right. Because when you start breathing through your nose, and that you can learn during toilet training, your posture is better. This is you can't develop postural awareness if you don't know how to bring the air to the other side of your body. That's how you learn where your muscles are in space. Otherwise, these are blind spots in our brain and we're just trying to figure it out, but we don't really get it.
For everyone like me who doesn't have incontinence yet, because it sounds like if the majority of us are doing this wrong, it's only a matter of time, whether it's kids or age or whatever it may be. So for those of
And
us
that's
that
a
don't have,
fact. By the way, if you reach the age of 80, you have an 80% chance of being incontinent. So you have to understand where we're all headed. I get to see the spectrum. See, I take care of people from 18 all the way to 100. I see, yes, it's in all of our futures. It really is, but I don't think it's supposed to be. I firmly believe that incontinence was not something we were supposed to have. I think it's something we are allowing ourselves to get because we are not waking up to these basic principles.
right. And that makes sense. But what about the women that either just had a baby or Jenna who already has it? What do you do to fix the issue?
Okay, well, it depends on what the issue is. But if you're
Okay.
leaking a little bit of urine, the very first thing you have to do is start paying attention to what you're doing on the toilet. The bladder is, I think it's a very psychological organ. And
Mhm.
I listen, I love depth psychology and all of that. It's like you're going into your shadow. You're literally going into the shadow, into the darkness, and you're opening your eyes to seeing what you're doing. We're all like out to lunch on the toilet. We don't want to even know what's going on out there. Just hopefully it's going to be over and we can move on with our day.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We actually have to pay full attention to what's happening on the toilet. Full attention.
Okay.
What am I doing? Am I pushing? How am I keeping this flow going? Am I using force? Because when you start paying attention to those behaviors, you see how dysfunctional you are. You're clamping and pushing and squeezing, and all of us are doing it. Every single one of us, because nobody's called us on these behaviors.
Yeah.
Nobody.
No.
So no more phones on the toilet.
You can listen. You can put your phone on the toilet. I'm just asking
Okay.
you to breathe. I know. And
Okay.
you can have your phone on the toilet. You can multitask.
Okay.
Just need to put part of your attention. And once you get good at this, you don't really have to pay attention. It becomes second nature. But in the very beginning, you have to open your bottom on the toilet. We have bottoms that open like a mouth. And all we're doing is keeping the mouth closed and pushing. And it's damaging us. And it's screwing up our whole neurology,
Well,
backing up our systems.
I see a lot of constipation. I was formerly a very constipated girl. I think
Me too.
whenever I like if anything's going on in my GI tract, it's usually constipation. Like,
Me
and
too.
so,
Just like you.
okay,
I
good.
was just like you. I'm
My
not like that
queen.
anymore.
And so obviously, like you said, we're breathing out the stool,
Well,
essentially.
we're bearing down.
Okay.
You have to breathe it out.
Okay. So then that brings me to the question of, I want to go into butt clenching in a second, but hemorrhoids, GI issues, getting backed up. Do you really think that like a large part of it is truly, I know bacteria, lots of things play a role in all of that, but you really think like improper toilet behavior is like the
The root
core of
cause.
it, the root cause?
The root cause.
I have the
The
chills.
root cause. I'm not saying that we don't have dysbiosis and we don't,
Sure.
but that is a symptom of improper transit from improper nervous system connections. These are developmental problems that we are all in arrested development, basically. No one's pulling us through the stage of toilet training that should happen. And it's really sad.
Well, I took a quote and I just want to say it as you woke up one morning, realized that the world of women has not been properly toilet trained and it's wreaking havoc on our bodies and overall health. And to me, that is so, I know we've kind of touched it. And I think your book, your message, we will spread it as far and wide as we can.
Oh God, thank you.
Of course. No, seriously.
It's so hard to do this. You have no idea. This is
No,
a booming project. And I'm
I,
looking for people who get listen, we all can get this to an extent.
yeah,
But it's really, I need so much help because I am telling you, this is every single person on the planet. And by the way, it affects men too. I don't want to get into the men as much.
sure.
They actually have as many problems with it as we do. They're more resilient in terms of their
Of course they don't.
They have other problems.
Okay.
So don't listen, but they
Good.
live less long than us. Just don't forget we live long.
True.
Yeah, right?
That's what
always
we have on
that
them.
yeah.
No, everyone listening to this, I think you're all going to be mind blown. I mean, I already am. I know that's kind of been the theme, but I want to really make sure we hone in on, because I know the question is going to be the how. You're saying, like, obviously the breathe in, the get on the toilet, the focus on your breath, the above the, what did you call
Below
it?
your belly button.
Below your belly
You
button.
want to make sure your diaphragm is doing all the work.
Okay.
Most of us have sleeping, lazy diaphragms.
Mm.
They're basically doing absolutely nothing. Okay. Because we are allowing them to do that. And we're conditioned against using our diaphragm because we are told to suck in our stomachs or
Right.
suck in our bellies. And we are doing it completely unconsciously. We are not disengaging at all. I always say we are not flat-bellied, flat-spined creatures. We are we are straight-spined, belly-out creatures. That is our evolutionary form. Like all the other animals in the animal kingdom, we are the only animal that sucks in our abdomen. Every other animal seems to have figured this out but us. And that starts because we're standing on 2 feet and we're trying to figure out how to posture ourselves. But we're in this like too far back posture. We're pulling in our stomachs, and all of that is against breathing mechanics. We're supposed to be breathing with our diaphragms when we walk around too. You can do it. You just have to learn. But for most of my patients, they won't do it because they think they're going to pee on the floor. They are literally walking around butt clenching and vagina clenching all day. They're using all their accessory muscles to hold pee and poop in. And it doesn't matter if you've had a kid, you learned this when you were 3. That's when you learned it, when you were 3 years old and you were toilet training. That's how you did it.
Wow.
I like to have checklists. So stop butt clenching, which probably takes a lot, especially at first. You have to be really mindful.
Right.
I'm aware of it. So
Aware.
for my patients, the first thing that happens when they start breathing and sniffing and feeling their butthole, when you're supposed to feel your butthole open with the sniff, right? That's what you're looking to feel. That's when you made the full pathway. It goes from the nose to the butt. Okay. When you start to become aware of that pathway, which is, I'm going to call it God's pathway. I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even religious, and I also call this God's breath because that's our design. And I want us to stop fighting our design. We are designed to take this breath. Now we can do lots of other breaths, upper half breaths, shallow breaths. We can live with all of those breaths, but they're not God's breath. They're not the breath we're meant to take. We don't get to change that. That's not something I invented or you. That's a biological thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that breath, God's breath, when you start doing it, you start becoming aware that you're butt clenching all day long. All of my patients totally freak out. They're like, Dr. Fleischmann, I just found out that I butt clench all day long. And I'm like, yes, everybody does. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't
That
be
was me
alarmed.
yesterday.
That's the first stage. It doesn't mean there's something wrong. It means you're waking up to something that is happening and has been happening your whole life. And your brain was not attentive to it. It didn't know it was happening. It was hidden. It was in the darkness. Okay. So once you start becoming aware of your butt clench, you just take it down. Every time you notice it, don't judge yourself. Don't be like, know that when you are butt clenching, it is your body telling you that you're stressed. Just know that. Know that you're going to butt clench tighter when you are stressed, but always just take it down. That's all you do. And before you know it, over the course of a few days, the butt clench starts to go away because we do not need it. It has no purpose. It's not there to hold anything in. Those muscles are not our holding muscles. Those are our accessory muscles, and they need to calm down when we're not using them.
So then what's next? So what else do you tell your patients?
This is the process, and it's not easy. This is not mechanical exercising. This is developing a mind-body connection. Because when you develop a nervous system connection to the other side of your body, you don't need to exercise your pelvic floor.
Mm.
It doesn't even make sense. Would you do mouth exercises?
No.
Have you ever thought to do them? Right.
No.
You know, if you damage your mouth, if you like throw up a rabbit without opening your mouth and everything like explodes apart, some physical therapist might give you some tightening exercises. But that's not, I mean, don't throw up the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Just open when the rabbit's coming out and you won't split open your muscles. So this is the point. There's no muscular mechanical exercise you need to do for your pelvic floor. But what you need to do is develop a brain connection. And that brain connection is very simple. It starts with a sniff. You have to almost suck in snot. I always tell people, if you don't hear snot, you're not doing it right. It starts like that. And you pay attention to the other side of your body. And when you feel that opening happen, know that's the start of not only a breath, but of relaxation of your pelvic floor. And you do that on the toilet. But you don't just sniff on the toilet, you pull it through with force. So you want to use air pressure. You want to push with air. I don't know how to, I'm trying to develop a language here to talk about these internal movements that we have to make and feel that we don't have words to describe.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to speak to you with a language that I've developed, which tries to explain these things that I know you feel in your body because they're human feelings. All of us do.
Yeah. No, it actually makes sense if everyone's listening to this, like actually taking the time to just, if you're driving, don't do it right now. But if you're sitting down, like actually do it because we can feel it. Like Jill and I feel it when you say it. I'm going to practice it on the toilet. A question that keeps popping up in my head is I walk around and I like strengthen and tighten my abs.
Yes.
Because I was told that like builds core. That's wrong.
I know. Yes, it's wrong. So it's against your design. And I'm going to go to battle with any exercise. I don't know. I don't know what you
like strength
trainer?
coach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's going to say that the opposite, or any spine surgeon or anybody who tells you that you should be sucking in your core all day long is absolutely wrong, because you need to breathe. If your diaphragm is not able to activate in that process so that your abdomen can expand with breath, how is that good for you? We are all suffocating ourselves. We are literally suffocating ourselves, and we are seeing hypoxia below. So when you have an overactive bladder, which is what we're seeing later in life, this is ischemia. We're not getting air on the other side of our body.
Right.
Our organs need air. They need blood flow. And if you are doing organ compression all day, you are literally cutting off the circulation to your organs. And depending on where you're sucking in, what you're sucking in, I see this all day long. And it's unconscious because nobody's calling us on this. It's like we're unmothered as a species. I just see us as unmothered. Nobody's saying, hey, don't suck in your belly because you can't breathe.
Well, it's the combination of unmothered and societal pressure and standards to suck in. Don't let anyone see a bloated belly, be your skinniest. Like it just is this.
Sucking in doesn't make you skinny. It makes you leak urine.
And that's, I
don't know what else to say.
I genuinely think that's my issue. What about?
I love that you're like, I am over this aesthetically motivated.
I am doing a Let Your Belly Out campaign.
Yes.
All
joining
round bellies. We were created that way so that we could have children.
Yeah.
Okay.
Round bellies win.
Expand so that we can have children, and we can expand them without a child in there. You don't have to have a child to expand your belly. So when I do the lean forward posture on the toilet, I tell everybody, last step, put your belly out onto your thighs. Let it out. You cannot pee with a sucked in belly. If you're peeing with a sucked in belly, you're going to push and damage yourself because you can't engage your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is the one that pushes the urine and stool out. This is not, by the way, this is in the books. Everything I'm telling you is in the books. And that's why I'm telling you, you've heard this before.
I was going to say,
not thinking about it. You're not able to put it into the narrative that makes sense. So there's the disconnection. Let's just stop disconnecting. Let's get connected.
Well, it's
Telling
also
you,
yeah. Well,
it
I'm
all
just saying it's one of those things where it's like it sounds almost like not like woo woo, but to maybe people it's the first time and you sound like you're just like coming up with this theory. But the craziest thing is that, like you're saying, it's biology, it's science, it's like literally how we're made. We're just so far away from that.
We're so disconnected from all of our physiological processes. We're living outside of our bodies.
Mm.
If you don't build a brain bottom connection, if you don't, and I have to tell you, it's not easy to do. If you guys find it easy, that's good. But for a lot of people, they can't, when they sniff, they can't even feel it. They
Mm.
can't. So some people have attentional problems. They just can't turn their attention from the top to their bottom. The sniff is it's milliseconds. So for you
Right.
to sniff, you have to turn your attention below. They don't feel it. They don't feel the diaphragms go out. That's a complete disembodied state. A lot of those patients have incontinence. Okay. But you can build that nervous system connection. And I take all my patients, I sit with them. Do you feel it? Let your belly out. Do you feel the snip hit the bottom? We need to be understanding this process in people because it's really the secret to our health. For a lot of people, they have such a strong guarding reflex below, they cannot take it down. They just can't do it. There's nothing that's going to. And these people are a real struggle. And I have to really work with them to get rid of their guarding reflex. Because what happens is when you sniff, your guard is going to react against the
Mhm.
sniff. Before you've built that connection, the reflex of the guard is going to snap back at it. I call it the snake bite on the other side.
Yeah.
And your brain doesn't even know what's happening. Okay, all that you know is you can't breathe. These people, when I tell them to do the sniff, it's like this. They're popping up. They just because their guarding reflex is being activated and they can't suppress it. So guarding reflex inhibition is the neurological milestone. It's not just getting the sip down there, it's being able to inhibit your guarding reflex. And that's it. That's why you can't teach this to 3-year-olds because the cognitive development isn't there at 3.
Right.
Probably around middle school when you develop some prefrontal cortex and your brain grows a little bit, then you can get the ability to inhibit your guarding reflex.
Mm.
None of us are doing that on the toilet, and that's why we're having incontinence.
Are the people that are dealing with incontinence the same people who are dealing with pain during sex?
Yes.
I
It presents in different ways.
Okay.
Pelvic floor dysfunction is a root cause. So when you think of what's the root, and I actually had this conversation with my patient today.
Yeah.
Pelvic floor dysfunction is your condition. Okay, it's all of our conditions. It's
Sure.
really a global health crisis, and it's a spectrum disease. Okay, so some people have it worse than others. Some people are more disconnected than others, and that might have to be genetic or could be early childhood trauma. Whatever the reason is, pelvic floor dysfunction affects some people more than others, meaning they're getting more symptoms than others. Okay,
Okay.
but each symptom might be a little different. Okay. So some people are experiencing pelvic pain from pelvic floor dysfunction.
Mm.
Some people are experiencing incontinence. Okay. It doesn't always present the same, and you might have different symptoms at different times in your life. So the first symptom is usually when you start getting sex infections. Any 20-year-old that comes to me and they're getting sex infections, I tell them, you're not relaxing to pee. Sex infections are literally everything's cramped up. She's just started having sex. You go into spasm, especially if you're lucky enough to have an orgasm. A lot of them cannot have orgasms. They're too tight to have an orgasm. By the way, you can't have an orgasm if your vagina clenching really tightly. I'm just letting you know that. Okay. Um, they start getting sex infections. And a lot of
And
them not actually infections. They're just really bad spasms and they don't know how to release the urine.
do you mean UTIs?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
yes. But not all UTIs are bacterial infections.
Right.
Sometimes,
Okay.
so if you find a lot of these young girls who are getting these sex infections and they're running to the doctor for an antibiotic, and a lot of times the culture is negative.
Try like 10 of my friends in college.
Yes, in my book, I have a girl just like this, Lily.
Okay.
By the way, all the characters in my book are made up. It was a creative process. I
I
took a
love it.
conglomeration of, yeah, I didn't want to get into all the, oh, who is this? They're all.
Right.
But Lily is a 19-year-old girl. She's having sex infections. And I'm trying to explain these concepts to her that she's not opening her bottom on the toilet. And when she starts to do that, her sex infections are going to get better. They get better on their own anyway. They tend to get better as we get older and we start having children, but they come back. They come back when we go through menopause because when we don't learn these skills of opening, It's like it just comes back later in another way, and then you're incontinent too. It's a sad story for us. But I don't think it should be this way. I don't think this is how it's supposed to be.
So we're gonna have a loose butthole summer is what I have to say. We have to, Jenna, we have to go on a
Loosen your
mission.
butthole. Your butthole needs air and blood. It needs it. Okay. It can't walk around clamped all day because it's literally not getting any blood flow.
I
Okay.
love this. I
Yeah.
love this
All
so
right. And when you sniff, it's a shot of air and oxygen to your butthole. Give your butthole some love. Sniff to it throughout the day. Do not keep it in a clamped state. You don't even know you're doing it. But when you start to do, so if you're having, for instance, fecal incontinence, so you're having a lot of stool urgency, usually it's because you are clenching so tightly that you are dysregulating your colon. Because your colon is getting a lot of mixed signals. This is about mixed signaling. You're signaling tight and your colon's trying to release. It's confusing to your nervous system. Am I supposed to go? Am I not supposed to go? You need to send clear signals to your nervous system. Now I want to poop. That means you have to stimulate your parasympathetics because pooping is a parasympathetic action. It's not a sympathetic action. So if you take your stressed out butthole to the toilet with you and you think you're going to poop, it's not going to happen. So you have to control your nervous system on the toilet. You have to stimulate your parasympathetics, and that is going to make the poop drop out.
Well, it's just so interesting to me because I see a lot of constipation, like I said, and like you said, dysbiosis, everything. But isn't it crazy that it could just simply be solved by a deep breath in?
So if that's the case, we have really screwed up.
Yeah, that's what I'm like.
We have really screwed up.
I think that's why my mind is so.
And I might be ostracized from every scientific society. I'm totally prepared.
No, but like
I'm
screw
willing.
that.
And
Truly.
I am willing because I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It means
Also,
nothing.
you're coming with over 25 years of experience.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm really sounding a little bit like a Rambo here. But I have to tell you, I really think that this is the reason that we're having so many problems. And you know how I know that? Because when I teach people this stuff, they get better.
Yeah.
I have been doing this now for many years. My patients are doing so well, and I don't operate on anybody that doesn't understand this.
Wow.
When you come to me, this is your job. If you don't do your job, I'm not touching you.
Wow.
And I'm very, very clear with my patients.
So do you only operate when there's been so much damage, kind of
Sure.
like the rabbit through the jaw situation where you have to go and fix the jaw because the rabbit's already been taken out?
I won't say that's the only time I operate,
Okay.
okay? But I will tell you, if you have a structural problem down there that is bothering you, I am always willing to fix it for you. If you feel your bladder coming out or whatever, you're leaking urine, that I'm going to go in there and I'm going to help you with that. And I do a lot of surgeries still. I love operating. That's my first love.
Mhm.
But I understand that if you have not fixed your functional problem first, whatever I do, even if it's okay for a while, it's going to be a problem at some point. You're either going to push your bladder down again, or you're going to have horrible UTIs because I've tightened up your opening and you really can't open to pee. These things I need you to understand before I go and touch you. Because once I touch you, if you haven't figured this stuff out, I don't want you to be mad at me.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. I'm a really good surgeon. I will not take responsibility any longer for things that don't work out for people. If I teach you what to do and I do what I do well, we're going to be fine. But if you're not doing your job, I'm not touching you. And listen, they don't get to say, "Oh, I did it. I am proud." I say, "No." I say, "Show me, show me." Oh, you have no idea. I am mean. I am so mean. I'm like, "No, you're doing it wrong. You're
No,
doing
it's
it wrong.
awesome.
You're doing it wrong. Let's fix that." And I work. And listen, most surgeons do not have the time to sit down and do neuromuscular training with their patients.
Right.
But listen, we don't have a choice because there's not a lot of us and there's not a lot of PTs and there's a lot of people out there that have problems. We have to take control. We have to find a way to control this ourselves. I don't think God meant us to all go to PTs. I think we were supposed to understand this stuff, you know?
Well, I want to add on you. I don't remember what word you just used, but you said something like you sound like, a wambo or something. I don't know, whatever you said. Yeah. We talk a lot about this podcast. I mean, I think science is amazing. You obviously follow a lot of the science, but I think so many things, and this is just confirmation of it, are like backwards. Like I really feel like every time we talk to an expert, we look at ourselves, we look at I've even like gone down the rabbit hole of like, we're pushing out babies the wrong way.
You are.
Like, yeah, thank you.
Not a rabbit hole. I'll validate it all. And listen,
Yeah.
there's a time where I needed that kind of validation too, because I thought I was crazy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
I really
I'm sure.
thought I was insane. I'm like, I am seeing the world from the other side.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's looking at the world from this side, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing the other side, and I know I'm right. I
Right.
know I'm right, and yet I'm not. When I start talking about this to people, they're like, I never heard of that before. I'm like, well, I don't know why you haven't heard about it, but that's what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. You're going to make me feel like I'm crazy. But now I don't feel that way anymore.
Okay.
Because I have had enough validation from working with people and also from fixing these problems in myself
Right.
to understand that this is real,
Yeah.
that this is what it is. And the sooner we get on board with it, the sooner we'll actually help people.
Yeah.
We won't be just treating them like objects where they don't have any part in what they're doing. If you are bearing down and pushing all the time, not only are you creating problems for your pelvic floor, you're creating problems for your organs. You're backing up your system. We see all these cysts and pockets and diverticulum. I mean, where do you think those are come? Do diverticulum just happen? No, it's pressure being put in the wrong direction. So all this diverticulitis and pockets, it's bearing down
Our dad literally almost died of that.
right into your colon wall.
Wait, can you just, I know we're wrapping up, but I just.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Yes.
Sorry. I didn't mean to say it like in that way. Jill just has a hard stop at 1:15, but I actually think we might need to do a part 2 with you. I think we're only scratching the surface with the knowledge that you have to share. So just maybe make that note if we can maybe do a part 2 with you.
Yeah, I think I covered enough of what you wanted to ask. Because
you covered everything we wanted to ask.
Okay,
No, this is going to be incredible.
This is a part 1 that's elite, but I'm just saying I want to spread your message even more. And I don't say this with every guest. I like feel your passion, and we started questioning everything in 2020, or when we were told we were going to have GI issues forever, and we reversed them. Like
Good. How did you do?
I mean, lots of different things.
Lifestyle changes.
Dietary stuff.
Dietary, lifestyle, supplements, muscle testing help
you know
us.
what? A lot of it was calming the heck down.
Nervous system. Yeah,
nervous
exactly.
system. Like but I have a burning question that I have to ask before we do jump off today. I saw on TikTok that when you pee standing up in the shower, you're ruining your pelvic floor. Is that true?
I was going to ask that.
So it's funny. I was actually thinking about that very question today as I was peeing in the shower. No, so really, I think that we are not supposed to be peeing standing up. Okay. That's the bottom line. It's not toilet posture. Toilet posture is in a squat position. And if you're on your own toilet, it's back straight, lean forward, elbows on your knees, belly out. It's the checklist. Okay. In that position, you're going to pee, whether you breathe or not. But I would like you to breathe when you do it. And I'd like that breath to be through your nose, expanding your belly. When you're in a standing position, if you push to pee a little bit, gravity is going to help the urine come out. But it's really not the way you should be. You're not going to empty your bladder well that way. And by the way, I'm not going to say this on live, but I don't think men should be standing to pee. I really believe that that's a problem. And I make my boys sit.
Wow.
I think they're pushing. They get prostate problems. And I think it's partly from that.
Okay, we have to have you on again.
I was going to say,
You think I'm a kook. You think this
No.
talking publicly.
No, we love you.
All of these things.
We love you.
I'm not
this
kidding.
Is like Jenna
this is right down our alley.
I love it. I found community.
Yes, you have us.
But you know what? What's really cool about your message, and I do have to jump off in 2 minutes, but what's really cool about your message is you're not asking for someone to go spend $5,000. You're not trying to put someone on a medication for life.
Yeah.
You're literally saying, put your elbows on your knees, push your belly out, breathe through your nose, sniff, and like unclench your butt. And those are free things.
Yes.
And
anyone can do. Put your finger on your nose.
Literally. Yeah.
Smell your finger. That one works so good. One of my patients, I can't even remember who it is, but I literally want to send her a huge bouquet of flowers.
I love that. Well, you're the author
you.
of Second Mouth. You don't have social media.
The Second Mouth. What's that?
You don't have social media, do you?
I do.
Just TikTok.
Oh, you do.
I'm at Dr. Nicole Fleischmann. I am starting to TikTok about these.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I
Yes.
missed that.
No, I was on her TikTok earlier
Your
today.
publicist or PR person sent your LinkedIn, so that's why I was like thinking that you
Okay,
didn't
good.
have it.
I'm on Instagram. I got to tell you, I'm terrible at social media, but
Okay.
I'm trying to get into it because I think it's an amazing tool for what I'm doing.
It is. Yeah.
I
You need
just-
to be on it.
I just got to do it.
Yeah.
Let us know if you need any help because
Yes.
that's
Don't
what you
offer
need.
that, honey, because I'm
I
a master. I'm a total. I actually all my OR scrub. I work with a lot of younger girls like you.
Yeah, of course.
And OR scrub is my TikTok manager. Told me, Liz, I cannot touch the TikTok. Because every time I do a video, I go on there and I start tinkering with it,
Right.
and then I ruin it. And I am banned from touching my TikTok. She's not letting me touch it. So I have to ask her.
My God, that's
I
okay.
know.
Tell her you've got to get back.
Screw it up.
Well,
sorry,
again,
I have to jump. It was so great to meet you,
Yeah.
Jenna. You can wrap it up, and
Yes,
I gotta
thanks.
go.
okay.
Bye,
All right,
Jill.
bye.